There's always this weird delay with YouTube. I know I can change it, but I just have to remember that it's there. All right. What's up, everybody? Today we're doing the live stream giveaway of the Sennheiser HD 560S and Zen DAC V2. Now, obviously, I don't have that here with me. That's those will be sent from somewhere else. But you know, I have heard them. So, actually, do I have a Zen DAC here? No, I don't. But yeah, this is sort of like the gaming combo that we're doing this time, and we're giving away 4 of them. One to each of you. I did want to let you guys know that we'd previously scheduled this giveaway for 10 a.m. Or that was like when the giveaway cutoff was, but that was under the assumption that we'd be doing a live stream earlier. So we've extended the entry eligibility to 10:45. So if you haven't signed up yet, definitely do so. There's a link in the description for that. And then, you know, do all the different things you got to do, like the different actions that get you more entries, visiting social media and stuff like that. Speaking of which, let me just do that now. So you could still sign up. That's the message. You could still sign up for the next 39 minutes. So definitely do that. So I'll be announcing the winner at around 11ish. So we'll go for about an hour. We'll do a Q&A session as usual, and then we'll announce the winner. So last little bit here. You're gonna hear the dulcet tones of the mechanical keyboard here. This is the drop control, if you're wondering. I was initially trying to get someone else to join on this live stream, but everybody seems to be busy today, which is fair enough. We recently got back from CanJam, so if anybody has any questions about CanJam or what that was like, or any of the products that we tried, feel free to ask, and I'll do my best to answer what I can. And yeah, without further ado, let's get going here. Are these ZMF? Yes, these are ZMF. These are the Verite Opens with the perf. Wait, this is the BE2 suede perf pads, because Zach has so many of them. This is my own personal unit. Obviously, I'm running this with my own custom EQ profile as well, but I'm also running this off of the Amps and Sound Kenzie right now, out of the 32 ohm out. This one's 32 and 300. Now I'm a proponent of I think if I were to buy this unit, I would go with the 8 and 100, just because I think, that's a little bit more versatile for a wider range of stuff. Or at least because these days, like, headphone impedances and sensitivity, like, headphones are getting easier and easier to drive these days. Like, impedances are coming down, sensitivity is going up. So yeah. So that is this headphone. How was CanJam? CanJam, yeah. So it was pretty cool. By the way, let me know how all the levels are for everything. Let me know if it's clipping. I try to do my best here, but I'm sort of a one-man show at the moment. Yeah, CanJam impressions. Okay, so I am actually working on a CanJam like wrap-up video, and we have a CanJam wrap-up article in the works as well, from 3 of us. So the 3 of the reviewers who went it was me, Grover, and then Theo. So Precog Vision went as well, and we already actually have articles from day 1 from Theo and myself, and there's already video on the channel from day 1 from Grover. So if you're interested in the IEM stuff, there's an article already up on headphones.com for that. Ooh, did the video just do something weird? I think it did, but well, things seem okay. And then yeah, and that initial day 1 wrap up is done as well. But there are, yeah, of course. So there's day 2 where we did a whole bunch more stuff, and we did a whole bunch of interviews with folks as well. So we got an interview with Jude, which was awesome. Sankar as well. Look out for the Sankar interview. Sankar from Odyssey, if anybody's unaware. That's coming out soon, I think. And then most likely either this weekend or early next week we'll have that the CanJam wrap-up video ready to rock. But I can give some quick impressions now. The LCD5 is very, very interesting. It's interesting for a number of reasons, but not least of which is the fact that it's so lightweight and comfortable. So, yes, it's detailed, and yes, they did do some tuning changes to that. Like, it's not like other LCDs, or at least not like the previous ones. I think Grover mentioned it. It's a little bit closer to, what you get with the new LCD X, in that sense. In that it has a little bit of ear gain there, which is nice. But it's still like the tuning wasn't like, exactly what I wanted, so I'd still probably be doing a little bit of EQ, but it was impressive. Like, if you think about like the headphones that it's actually competing against, there's really not that much else that's like that, that's like super lightweight and comfortable. There's the Diana Fi, and yeah, absolutely, the LCD 5 has a smoother sounding frequency response compared to the Diana Fi. Like, I could tell right away, like, it was a more normal sounding thing in the treble. Like, the treble, actually, I shouldn't say that because it depends on what you're looking for, I guess. But it didn't have that 9K, 10K peak that the, like, resonance peak that the Diana Fi has. So, but as far as the technical performance, like, that's kind of what, sorry, I just found an ant. It's Android. That's kind of what the level that it's competing at, which is pretty sweet. Pretty awesome. I'm trying to think. The only other thing really that it would compete against is the Sundara, and it's very different. It's still a very different kind of sound. Like, it's a more, it's a lower end, low tone focus instead of the, like, it does bass and lower mids, I think, better, dare I say better, than the Sundara. But I need to hear them side by side. It doesn't have quite the upper mid range tonal balance that the Sundara has. That, like, upper mid range and treble kind of balance there in the Sundara, I think, is a little bit it's a little more clear, but the LCD5 definitely has ear gain, which is, it's been what I've been wanting from these Odysseys for years. So everything, like, basically they did many of the things that I wanted them to do. So I'm optimistic, basically. Now, with that said, like, I'm not going to say go out and rush to pre-order an LCD5, even though it's going to be tricky to get one because, like, they're in pretty high demand right now, especially after all the CanJam impressions. I still want to say, like, if you want to make sure that you're, like, getting something that is truly amazing and worth the price tag, because it's pretty expensive. It's probably still prudent to wait for additional information to come out about it. I'm obviously going to try and review it when I get a chance, but like I said, it's very difficult to get hands on these, and I think for Odyssey as well, like, they're they can only make them so fast. So I get that there's a rush, but the same message that I always give, just be very, cognizant that this is the current hype train that everybody is on, and those hype trains, you want to make sure that it's something that's going to be a long-lasting thing that you value, and not something that people just pivot away from as soon as somebody is like, oh no, it's not actually the greatest thing ever. So I always caution patience with that stuff. Scott, thank you. Hey Andrew, which headphone from CanJam are you most excited to try? Like at my home at the studio or at my home environment. Are there any you would personally purchase? Yeah. So that the LCD5 is the one that I'm the most excited to try in my home environment. And I'm excited to get into doing some EQ with that and see kind of where it lands. But are there any I would personally purchase? So I don't know if I would, just because my situation is so unique with the fact that I'm constantly trying different headphones. I rarely get a chance to listen to the stuff that I personally own, other than right now. It's difficult for me to say that, like, in my current situation, I would jump on a $4,000 or $5,000 headphone. But if I were somebody looking to spend that kind of money on a headphone, the LCD5 is the one that I would probably consider, because it's lightweight and comfortable, right? I think that's, like, the detail there, yes, it's good. The tuning, yes, it has ear gain. All right, these are good things. But the main reason is it's a high-end Odyssey headphone that I would be able to wear the whole day for my whole work day, and yeah, so for that reason, that's the one that I would. Other than that, you know, the stuff from Dunu, the IEMs there, the new Falcon Pro, it's so inexpensive. Like I obviously like, you know, I wouldn't necessarily personally feel the need to buy that, because I probably look a little bit higher price tag. I'd look more at like the $500 to $1,000 range for IEMs for me. But if I were looking at a you know, $200 to $300 IEM, like a budget IEM, the Dunu Falcon Pro is like near the top of that list for me. So that's really solid. I have one here actually, and yeah, it's I like it a lot. Something else. Oh yeah, the Justin's amps. Good lord. If you want like this is the reason why I think DMS made a video not long ago about one of the latest topping stacks, and like, as much as like there are things that I disagree with him about those amps in particular, or those stacks in particular, he made a really good point that I definitely agree with, and it's that, you know, all of this stuff starts to sound a little bit the same, and then you move over to Justin's amps, and it's like, oh, did I lose internet? No, we're still good. We're still going. Were we still good? I see a bunch of frame drops. That's why I'm worried. But yeah, and then I move over to Justin's amps, and it's like, holy smokes, this is different and better and unique. Now, I'm not sure I completely share the opinion that, like, I'm it's not that I don't share the opinion. I'm more curious about the opinion that Justin expressed in the in one of the seminars, which is because he was doing the seminars on, you know, tube amps and stuff like that, and, you know, he said something that like the distortion that you get from tube amps is more realistic, or it changes the sound to be a more realistic type of sound to what the human ear prefers. I'm still not totally sure. Like, I'm curious about that. Like, I want to know, you know, basically, I know, like, we know that not all distortion is created equal, but I want to know if there's something unique about tubes that would be paralleled, you know, if you're listening to a concert. Like, say, for example, you were measuring, you know, at a concert, and you know what the sound was at a concert. Would that have similar kinds of, you know, harmonic distortion the way that, you know, certain tube amps do? I don't know. But it's an interesting question, and it's one that I'd want to, you know, almost like do another. We did do an interview with him, but I want to do another one and ask him about that, because I only saw the seminar afterwards. So, very interesting stuff. And really, if you guys ever get a chance to try out Justin's amps, amps and sound amps, like, definitely do it, because they're not like if you think about tube amps, like, most people think of like the Dark Voice or the OTL, like Bottlehead stuff. It's not like those. Like, they don't like roll off the bass and the treble, you know, like they are. Okay, I hesitate to say linear because it's going to change depending on the headphones that you're using, but like, in the right synergies, right, they are potentially a lot more linear, right, for their frequency response. They don't mess with the frequency response, you know, depending on the circumstances that you're using it in. But they sound amazing. Like, that's the bottom line. Like, every single one of them that I tried, like the Nautilus, the Kenzie Ovation, obviously the Forge, you know, it was just like, holy smokes, this is different, and in a good way. So, yeah. So I think that would be me. Like, if I'm looking to buy something, you know, from the stuff that I tried on the show floor, the one of Justin's amps is probably what I would look towards. You know, I think for me it would probably be the Forge, just because that's the one that I've had the most experience with, because we have that obviously at the studio. But if I were, like, you know, filthy rich, I would look at the Nautilus, because I tried that one and oh my god. And the Ovation was just fantastic as well. Like, I think there was somebody there with the ZMF Verite closed. Actually, that was another thing. It was nice to try the Verite closed again. And he was like, yeah, try it off the Kenzie Ovation. And I was like, okay, sure. I know what the Verite sounds like. I know what the Kenzie sounds like, but that combo was definitely solid, and it reminded me again. It was like, oh yeah, this is that like the sweetness of that Kenzie is just fantastic. I say sweetness, that means nothing to people who are like, who've never heard it. But when you hear it, you know what that is. Like, there's no other way I can describe it. Are there any great sounding? Thank you, Dean. By the way, are there any great sounding clip-on headphones? I ask because they are lightweight and never require a seal. So wearing glasses. Yeah, that's a good point. The what is it? Those COS Porta Pros, the KSC 75s, like the not the Porta Pros, but the KSC 75, like whatever version of that. I think they make a clip-on one. Someone can correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe there is some sort of clip-on type thing there. Oh yeah, somebody's even mentioning it. KSC 75. Yeah. Perfect. CanGem equals hype machine on steroids and anabolics and growth hormone and caffeine overdose. Yeah, like that's the thing, right? Like there was some awesome stuff there, but and you see like a lot of people posting their impressions of different things, but that's show conditions. And I remember the same thing happened in 2020 when we went to CanGem. We all tried the Diana Phi with DMS modded pads, and to be clear, I mean, I did a review of that on the channel. It's very impressive, but when we got it in our home environments, those opinions started to shift a little bit, and we started to go, oh, actually, there's some certain things that we're hearing now in a quiet environment that we didn't hear on the show floor, and I think that's bound to happen with this as well, because if you think about like I'll go to the studio either later today or tomorrow, and because I need to do some sound editing, because when I'm doing the interviews on the show floor, you can hear like the background, right, of everybody talking, and I'll be able to tell exactly where those that background, like roughly what the frequencies are for the background noise, or the frequency range for the background noise, and yeah, so it definitely clutters a lot of that stuff. It's like your noise floor is just suddenly really high. Let the dust settle before you buy. This is what I don't know. This is just my opinion. Like, I think it's good to be patient, and it's good to be considered with your purchases, and then make those purchases last a long time. Because there's always another flavor of the month, and like and it's in headphones and in IEMs. It's a common thing. And there are definitely channels that are dedicated to hyping things up, and I hope we're not doing that. Like I talk to the guys all the time, and I think that we align on that pretty strongly. We're here to put out durable information. I recommend the EX5 rather than the L30 E30 stack, just for all the features and space. I could see that. Yeah, I could see that. Hey Rob, how's it going? High Resolve, would you recommend the Pro cans? The Pro iCans? The amplifier? Because yeah, I think it's very versatile. I liked it. I think it's like the best thing you can get for the money, but it's very versatile. Yeah. A sterile amp is bad, like topping A50S. So I tend to think that all that stuff, I mean, I agree with DMS that like that stuff sounds generally the same, like the EX5, the A90, the stuff that's been engineered specifically for metrics that certain websites care about. They all generally sound the same, and they are all kind of on the sterile side. And if you like that, then that's fine. I'm not going to begrudge that. I just personally don't find that interesting at all. Like in my mind, it's like, well, why even bother spending $500 on the thing when you can get the same kind of sound for 99% of headphones at $200 or whatever that, or $300, I just think, well, what's the point of getting the higher end one? Because they all sound basically the same. Yeah, maybe there's more power output from the balanced output of the A90, but like, do you really need that? I don't think so. Plus, they all kind of sound like, they sound unengaging to me. So what's the point? What I disagree with DMS on that point was, that it's this clean sound. Like, to me, it doesn't sound any more clean than a Magni Heresy or anything else that's the good enough options. They don't sound any better. The Atom Stack was another example. They're good enough. They're fine, and I don't like. we're talking about clean. Like, to me, there's an element like there are amplifiers that sound more resolving. They sound more detailed to me. Does that mean they're less clean? I don't. To me, no. Like the. So I don't like, yes, clean in the sense of like they measure well, but like we know that most of that, like, check out the recent article from Blame Lacrosse that got published, that we published, where we actually simulated amplifier distortion, and one of those examples is the Zen DAC, the original Zen DAC, which didn't measure that great for distortion. But can you hear it? Nobody can hear it. There's nothing. It's completely indistinguishable from the reference track. So that's sort of the point there. Is that stuff is all way below the audible threshold. Raphael, thank you. I'm set on buying a 2021 LCD-X because it seems like a solid all-rounder. Has anything been launched in its price bracket at CanJam? Ooh, good question. I don't think so. The stuff that, like, this time of year, especially because of the whole what happened in the world for the last like year and a half, 2 years, this time of year has been all about those big ticket flagship releases, and not so much the like middle ground releases. Like I say middle ground, it's still high end stuff, right? Like $1,000 plus. I think that there was stuff that was released, but at around that price, but it was more on the source equipment side. And I think there's some IEMs around, that were released around then, like the, Precog loves the Symphonium Helios. We obviously had that at the show. But I still haven't heard it, so that's that's on my radar. But for over-ear headphones, no, I don't think there was anything that was released around that price. I CanJam. I could be wrong about that, but it doesn't ring a bell. At least nothing that would have caught my eye. I think the only thing that would have been released around then was the Hi-Fi Man Aria Stealth Magnet. Now, not released at CanJam, but they definitely had it there. So I think it's worth considering that, but it is more expensive, I think. But I think you're like that LCD-X at whatever that price is, like $1,200, something like that. That's, I mean, honestly, if I were spending that kind of money on a headphone, that's what I would do. I would do that, or I would get that Adorama HG6 SE V2 when that's on sale, because I'd say they're very different sounding. It's funny because like they're both detailed but in different ways. Like the LCD-X is better at certain things, and the HG6 SE V2 is better at certain things. LCD-X is a bit more relaxed there, whereas in the upper mids. But yeah, I think they're both good. Yeah, I think you can't go wrong there. I know Chrono has a Sendy Peacock review coming out soon, but he already posted it up in the forum if you're curious about his thoughts. And yeah, it's not like, I know somebody was saying that like it's like better than LCD-X, and no. No. I think people can get easily confused though by volume. Like if you're listening a little louder on one than the other, I think you can get very easily confused. I would even say I'm sure that's happened to me before. Okay, best headphones for... Did I answer that question? Yes, okay, good. Best headphones for mixing, in your opinion? AKG K371, baby. No, like, it's... I don't think you need to go spending crazy amounts of money for mixing equipment, because... the stuff that is like reference tuned, you can find that at under $350. You can, Hi-Fi Man Sundara is a great example, right? K371, like I mentioned, that's honestly like when I'm doing mixing, like for just like the pro audio side, like the like for the videos when I'm doing the sound mixing, when I get it right, I'm using the K371. If it sounds off, it's likely because I was using some headphone that I happened to have at the time, and it messed up the track. But yeah, you want something that's reference tuned. So I would say K371, Sennheiser HD600, Hi-Fi Man Sundara. To a certain extent, you could go with that R70X, but I like the R70X. I didn't think it was as competitive as the, some of those other ones like the Sundara. For high-end stuff, yeah, you could go with a Hi-Fi Man Ananda as well. That would be fine. an EQ'd Odyssey LCD X would be fine. Yeah, just make sure it's, you know, something that ends up being reasonably close to the to something Harman, and you'll be fine. Because that, like, I think that's what people need to realize, is that, like, Harman, the whole point there is for getting playback equipment and, you know, mixing and mastering to agree, right? So when you're to get the recording to agree with the playback equipment. So, you know, for anybody who's like out there being like, yeah, but DF is Hammershine Mahler DF is like closer to like anatomical neutral. It's like, okay, maybe, but like that doesn't help you in situations where you're listening to, you know, recordings that sound shrill as all hell. So if you want to get a reference point for what most people prefer, use that. And it's certainly not the DT1990 Pro, but you could use that for certain situations if you... The DT1990 isn't actually great for mixing. I mean, it works, but it is far from the best. Yeah, I agree. Like, you can use it for, like, if you have a certain type of, like, the best use case for that is, you know what the frequency response is of the DT1990 Pro. You know it accentuates the sibilant tones, right? That being the case, your mix is going to end up compensating for that a little bit. At least ideally. So in that scenario, yeah, if you're like mixing vocals and you're like, I may want to make sure that the sibilant tones are not fatiguing, then that makes sense, right? But I still wouldn't use it. I would still use a K371. I don't know what the QC is like on them. I see you're asking if the K371 is build quality is problematic. Because I only had one. I mean, it's totally this little, you know, rickety little thing. Like, it's not. It's right here. It's not particularly robust or. Oh, can you see it? No, you can't see it. Right. It's not particularly robust or sturdy, but like, there is no reason, like, unless they've changed the M50X dramatically, which I know they have changed it. I would take the K371 over that for this particular application. Yeah. Also, like field recording and stuff like that. Like my old job, I used to do a lot of like documentary. Like we used to be out in the field, you know, shooting documentaries and stuff like that. And we needed like field recording headphones, using like those like Zoom recorders and stuff like that. You know, because you're monitoring. There's somebody there with like the boom pole, and there's, you know, somebody monitoring, and whoever's doing the monitoring for the audio, you know, that people were using the M50Xs all the time, and I think there's no reason why I would use an M50X, at least those ones, over this for that application. So yeah. Also, yeah, the other thing with DMS's fit I wanted to mention is that I don't quite see. Like he was talking about like kind of splitting up. Oh shoot, am I still? Did we disappear? Oh, if it froze on you, just refresh. The internet is not ideal. Something seems to be going on right now, which is kind of a shame. But yeah, so DMS said something else. Like he likes to split up this stuff into audiophile versus hi-fi, and that these are two different things. And I kind of don't see it that way. I kind of see those running into one another. And like if we're talking about what constitutes good sound, I don't like to create that kind of dualism, because for me it's like disregard. I don't care necessarily what the artist intended. That's not interesting to me. I want it to sound the way that stuff sounds in real life. I want it to sound like realistic and good, right, in that sense. And if you keep so that's why to me what is so essential for this is ensuring that the balance between fundamental and harmonic tones is good, is the way that balance is heard in a natural environment in real life. Now, some people might be like, yeah, but I want coloration. It's like, okay, that's fine, but I don't see that as like a uniquely audiophile thing. I think that's just like somebody who has a certain preference. Like I think to me, the audiophile experience includes what DMS is categorized as the hi-fi experience. That's kind of more how I see it there. Like if you're after good sound, if you want to take your sound quality seriously, if you have something with a more esoteric frequency response, you just dive into EQ, right? If you that's not to say that everything needs to be tuned to the same target, right? You can have different flavors, but there are certain things that are essential. And one of them is you need to have some sort of ear gain. And then the other is, having that balance there between fundamental and harmonic. And then, you can flavor it up however you want, right? But by all means, the Verite is I say that while wearing a Verite, right? The Verite is not a reference kind of sound, right? It's much more of a sort of like a, coloration to it. But, with EQ, it doesn't take that much to get it to be, closer to reference. And I think that's like, to me, I'm not saying it's like this for everybody, but for me, I that's what I prefer. Let's see, Rob, I saw your thing there. Thank you. Always just incredible support. Thank you. Is there any? Let me know if you have a question, because I don't see it. As always, you know how to contact me. Hey, what's up, Jake? See you now. I'll try and get some more questions here. What is happening? Is someone recommending the A90? Yeah, I'm not going to recommend that amp. Even if you're looking for that kind of sound, I think DMS, summed it up pretty well in his video. Why would you get that if you can get something for considerably cheaper that sounds, completely indistinguishable? So, in that sense, I agree. Have you ever thought about just keeping a mustache? No. I think mustaches are ridiculous. Maybe for November. Maybe we'll do that. But yeah. R70X versus Sundara, in your opinion? Yeah, Sundara easily. Not easily because they're both good for their frequency response, right? The R70X is a little shoutier, a little bit more upper mid focused. So Sundara, at least the 2020 Sundara. And by the way, there's no 2021 Sundara. It's 2020. It's probably 2019 actually. There's only one revision, at least as of right now, which was to the pads way back then. Yeah, it could have been. It was probably done at sometime in. I know for sure it was done sometime in 2019, but we all just called it 2020. But yeah, I saw some outlets that, selling 2021 Sundara. It's like no, that's the same one. It's the same good one. But yeah, R70X is like the Sundara is a little bit more relaxed there in the upper mids compared to the R70X. But for the technical performance, the Sundara is clearly ahead. Like it's not perfect either, but like it's clearly better. For detail and incisiveness and separation and all that stuff. And then I think R70X is a little bit warmer there in the bass. Like the bass level's a little higher there. Yeah, I don't know if the buffering was me or YouTube, because it didn't show any blip on my end, so, oh well. Have you seen the HD6X0 pad revision? Could be interesting to measure and test, given how sensitive they are to pad changes. I would like to see that, yeah, or I'd like to get one in and test that out, because yes, pads do make a difference, especially for those headphones. There are some headphones where they don't make as much of a difference, but like if you spend a lot of time measuring headphones, you know how much of a difference pads make. Yeah. Okay, here's a question. HE6 SEV2 at $660 versus Alex at $700. How do they compare, and which would be the better upgrade from the Sundara? That is a very good question. So in some sense, I'm actually going to recommend the Alex in that situation, because as much as this HE6 SEV2 is excellent there, and probably better value overall, the Alex is different enough in its presentation to the Sundara. Like, unless you're planning on selling the Sundara and only using one headphone, then I'd say HE6 SEV2, yeah. But if you're looking for something to complement the Sundara, the Alex, I think, would complement it more, because that's sort of a slammy dynamic driver presentation. So, yeah, I like if you're only ever looking for if you're looking for one headphone, you're going to sell your Sundara or something like that, HE6 SEV2. But if you want to experience different things, Alex. I prefer the sound of biocellulose drivers over the other options. What is your preferred driver material? So I don't think that that's a difficult question to answer. I understand why you'd say that, though, because that could be like beryllium, because detail, right? Like, but that doesn't mean, like, just because a driver is beryllium, that doesn't mean that it is necessarily exceptional, you know. Preferred driver material. So in dynamic driver headphones, I actually really like what they did with the Verite driver, like the vapor deposited beryllium and polyethylene naphthalate. That, to me, it's like a nice combination of, you know, speed and detail with not sounding too artificial. You know, so I like that a lot. I think, you know, the back when I owned the Auteur, the one thing that I felt was missing, which, by the way, the Auteur is biocellulose, the one thing I felt was missing was, you know, that sort of sense of immediacy and speed and detail. And when they, you know, went up to the Verite drivers, they, you know, they gave you that. So I'm trying to think what else. Again, for dynamic driver stuff, okay, I'll put it this way. I really like the drivers that use the composite materials. So or composite. So having different material types for different parts of the driver. You know, this is something that actually I'll have an interview with Tom from Dunu about coming out soon, where he talks about this. But the ones that have, for example, Focal's aluminum magnesium drivers are an example of this. But it's not just they're not the only ones to do this. But you know, something where the outside of the dome or outside of the driver can be a more compliant material for bass, and then the center can be a bit stiffer. And I was reading there's a post by Oratory from a long time ago where he kind of talked about the differences among different types of dynamic drivers. So for me, it's less about material. It's more about driver style, and those composite, or I think they've been called hybrid as well. That's kind of more what I like, and that's only because of it allows for that. There seemingly allows for that. You get really good punch out of that, and then also there's the full bass extension that you can get, and like, and if you contrast that with Sennheiser's method for doing, you know, drivers like the HD6 series, those are great drivers. They're very detailed sounding headphones, but they don't have that full bass extension that you get with something like the Focal Alex, or like, you know, Clear or whatever. But that's not to say I don't like those biocellulose. Gosh, that's hard to say. Biocellulose drivers either. I think they're good too. Yeah. And then yeah, for planars, that becomes a very difficult question, because it's like in the I want to say, like, in the marketing sphere for this stuff, you see diaphragm material being thrown out a lot when it comes to dynamic driver headphones, moving coil headphones. You don't see that very much when it comes to, you know, the diaphragm material for planars. I'm not sure I've been doing a lot of testing of different, you know, I've tested a lot of different headphones with different diaphragm materials there as well, and I don't know if there's a consistent one that I'm like, that sounds better. Like, for example, the HE6, as far as I understand, uses PET. Now, but it's not because of the PET material for the diaphragm that the HE6 sounds amazing. It just happens to use it. And there are other examples of PET diaphragm planars that don't sound as good. So, you know, it's tough. Um, let's see what's next here. Did I miss a super chat? I want to make sure I got everything here, guys. I think we're good. You guys are all... I should probably talk about that 560S, hey? Honestly, for like, if I were to get a headphone setup for gaming, that would be on the list, you know? Like, it's got the right kind of tuning for that. I tend to share Crin's sort of points about gaming, that you could use. Anything that is a good headphone would generally be okay, because a lot of it is like whatever you're used to. At the same time, yeah, I mean, if I had an HD 100S, right? Like, if I had all the money in the world, HD 100S, sure. But, you know, or like, you know, something that has a very spacious presentation. But I think you can, like, in some ways, I think the things that are, like, really detailed would be the way to go, as long as it's not super claustrophobic, right? And the HD 560S is a good, you know, headphone for sense of space at around that price. And then it also has that slight bump there in the frequency response, right in the lower treble, like, I want to say upper mid lower treble. And so, you know, on the one hand, that can be a little bit spicy there for, you know, in certain recordings, right? Like the sh sounds maybe come across a little bit intensely there. Not a lot, but just a little bit. And because it's not like it's a specific peak, it's just like that range is a little higher. But that's actually pretty good for gaming, I think. Like, that's actually right. Like, that area would give you a little bit more, you know, indication for things like footsteps and whatnot. Let's see. From what you heard from the LCD5, how do they stack up to the Diana V2 or Fi? Yeah, I think now there's not... I mean, I need to hear them in a home environment, but from that initial... Well, I listened twice, and from my initial take, I don't... Like, the Diana Fi is in trouble. Because it's, you know, there's nothing really else out there that has that kind of level of detail with that kind of weight and comfort. And, yeah. I would probably take the LCD5 over that. Also, like, the fit is easier, but again, with the Fi, with the DMS pads, it's very comfortable too. Crin like the R70X. I'd be curious to ask him if he likes the 2020 Sundara more now, because that was before he tried the 2020 Sundara. But no, the R70X, like, Metal 571 is right. It is definitely a little on the grainy side. Very wide for its soundstage. That's also true. So Crin might be indexing more for width, and Metal might be indexing more for absence of grain, in which case you're going to end up with two different assessments there. But they can both be right, you know what I mean? Tube amp recommendation under 1K... What? Oh, /500 USD. Those are two different. Those are two different prices. I don't recommend any tube amp under $500. I don't like, and the reason, and I've talked about this before. The reason for that is because the value that you get from solid state amplifiers under $500 is so much higher. I don't know. You can get a Rebel amp for around that. I think. I would just do that. You know, you can get, but again, like, I would almost say just someone's gonna kill me for saying this, but like, you can get one of the THX amps, you know, and it'll drive basically all of your headphones, unless you have an HE6, in which case, yeah, you got to be a little bit more picky there. But like, heck, you could get a Zencan. So yeah, you know, like, these amplifiers, like, there's so much value in the under $500 bracket for solid state amplifiers that makes more sense to me. And then with the tube amps, that stuff doesn't really get interesting until you get into the, like, over $1,000, you know, category, or like $1,500 category. Like, I've heard a lot of tube amps under $500. They're not good. Like, I haven't heard a single one where I'd be like, yeah, I would take that over, because that's where you get tube amps that you know, that you can't do that much with that kind of landed cost that you'd need to sell it at $500, and so you'll end up with amps that roll the bass and roll the treble and stuff like that. No, and I've heard some other ones that have been like just like outright mushy sounding, like that. Yeah, I think there was one from, I want to say this is like a Duo, one of the X Duo things. No. I mean, maybe there's one that somebody's found that's amazing, but I certainly haven't heard it. If anything, I would say it's worth considering maybe tube hybrids under $500. Like that, the MCTH might be an option there. The one I bought years ago sounded fine for the first 10 minutes that I listened to it, and then it exploded. So that's a concern. But if you get one that doesn't explode, then maybe that would be a good option. I don't know. I know there's some from Shit Audio as well. I think they have some hybrids that might be worth considering there that are under $500. On my THX 887, my HD6XX have been cranked more than SR 325s to achieve the same level, but on my Kinpu, I don't know what that is, but that's a great name, A6000 Mark II tube amp, they're the same. Why? Most likely because you have different power outputs, like oh, okay, I see what you're saying here. You're saying that on one source you can get the same level, you're at the same point there, and on another source it requires two different ones. And I think that someone can correct me if I'm wrong on this, because I have no idea what that tube amp is, but I think it would have to do with one being voltage based and the other one not. So it would have more to do with that, I think. Because the HD6XX is a higher impedance headphone. Let me actually double check this. What is the impedance of the SR325 impedance? Let's double check that. Yeah, so it's 200 ohms. So that makes sense, right? Your tube amp is not going to be as affected by the impedance, so you can get around the same. Any thoughts on the Hi-Fi Man Itchy R10 closebacks? I didn't hear the dynamic, but the planar, that frequency response is really strange. I can't get into it. Yeah, no. Like to me, those are not. Disregarding the fact that they look like the Sony's, right? Like if you just look at that as a product and you feel it and you try it on, you listen to it, nothing about that to me screams $5,000 or $5,500. The only thing is that they are detailed. Like the HER10P is definitely a detailed headphone. Like it has the technical chops to be worth it at that price, but not the frequency response. I'm sorry, the tonal balance is so strange on that headphone. Like even after EQ, I couldn't it still didn't sound right to me. And then also, and to be clear, I love Hi-Fi Man headphones. Like two of my favorite headphones, original HE6 and Hi-Fi Man Sosvara, but the R10P did not sound like any of those. And then also somebody else mentioned it as well. I think in one of the CanJam threads, but when you put on the HE-R10P, there's this weird cup resonance effect. So it's almost like it amplifies the ambient noise or certain elements of the ambient sound, depending on what it is. So I really just don't understand the point of that headphone. But that's just me. If somebody else out there loves it, then by all means. But I can't get into that. All right, let's see. What else? Carlo, thank you. Good question. Hi-Fi Man Aria versus Vocal Clear versus updated LCD X 2021. I think then you'd also have to do the comparison with the Aria Stealth Magnets, which I haven't heard yet, but we're gonna try and get one in, because yeah, that's definitely on the radar. See, also another thing to keep in mind is that those are at very different price tags, because the Vocal Clears are now sold for $990, and the LCD X 2021 is like $1,200, and the Aria I think is still like $1,600 or something like that. So, yeah, I'm gonna try and frame it like this. So I was somebody who EQ'd the LCD X, the 20, even the 2020 version. So in some ways, I think my judgment on that in that video still stands, because I would still EQ the 2021 version. It's just that the EQ that's like it, you don't need to do it anymore, and it's also much easier to do. So that's really what changed there, and it also got a little bit lighter, more comfortable. So if you're looking for that more analytic and clinical presentation that's a little bit on the, like a little brighter, like it still has full bass extension, but it's got a little bit more ear gain and then lower treble presentation, right? Still balanced, but overall, yeah, it's reasonably smooth, but overall just a little bit more analytic. You go with the iFi Aria because it also has more depth presence and separation than the LCD-X. More space, better depth, and all that stuff. If you're looking for punch and slam, you go with the Focal Clear. That's the one in that list that still punches. Really good macro contrast on the Focal Clear. Probably the best in its price category. Of the Alexa is a little bit less expensive, I think, still, but both of those hit really hard. And it's a little bit more like middle ground, and then the LCD-X is a little warmer there between 4K and the rest of the mid treble there. So, but actually, I should say that the mid treble to upper treble presentation on the X is much better than it was before as well. So it's really just your 4 to 6K region on the LCD-X that's a little relaxed. But yeah, I think what I said before in that video it still stands. Like it depends what you value. If you want really good EQ ability and clarity for trailing ends of tones, the LCD-X gives you incredible value there. I'd actually say it's at least as good as the Aria for detail and that kind of stuff. If you want space and separation and depth, Aria still. If you want punch and slam, Clear still. I keep in mind the LCD-X is still, heavier. The Razer Kraken is a headphone for certain interpretations of headphone. 58X isn't better than 560S at anything. I kind of agree. Let's see. There is no 2021 revision? What are you talking about? For LCD-X, yes, there is. It's not for Sundara. What revision are you talking about? Or did you just catch up? Like, it's funny because there's a lot of people who are saying like, oh yeah, I emailed Hi-Fi Man and they told me that there was no revision. Of course they're going to tell you. It's like there is no 2021 revision. I will grant that, because we opened a 2021 from 2021 and measured the same as the one from 2020 for the Sundara. But the thing is, like, I'm not saying Hi-Fi Man's lying about this or anything like that, but merely that they don't know what happened. The people in customer service don't know necessarily what was going on. But what did happen? This was confirmed by Fang Bian in 2020. This was confirmed. Yeah, so there was a revision in 2019. This was confirmed by Fang at CanJam there, that they changed the pads to improve reliability. And I think that's true, actually, because some of the older pads would just disintegrate. Like I know Hi-Fi sent one in, and it was like totally destroyed, basically. It would sort of the seam would kind of peel off from the plastic housing piece. So they changed the pads, whether it's glue, whether it's whatever, they improved that. But in so doing, it also changed the frequency response for the better. And it's funny because people are like, oh, there's no revision, it's just about seating or whatever. If you just look at the pads, they physically look different. So if that's not enough, like if you I don't know what is. So yeah, there definitely was like 100% guaranteed there was a revision sometime to the pads sometime in 2019. And then that's it. There's been no other revision since. The problem has been, and we've talked about this a lot, the problem has been that it's taken a long time for reviewers to catch up because they were being sent older units from Hi-Fi Man. So the stock that wasn't in circulation in, through dealers was being sent out. So that's why. That's what the reason for that issue. And it's something that like you can't really, hedge against that very well. You can't if you are a large company that has lots of dealers selling your stuff, actually I don't even know how large Hi-Fi Man is, but like if you have lots of dealers selling your stuff, it really sucks if somebody's like, oh, by the way, all of those that you have, they're no longer as good as the next one coming out. So, it makes perfect sense why they wouldn't want to indicate that. But it was nice to see that, now Crin has measured the 2020 reversion, and it confirms this. Sean Olive has measured one, and it confirms this. So all the reviewers with measurement rigs, or at least with the industry standard ones, they are confirming this as well. So it's taken some time, but we're finally there. All right, last question here, guys, and then we'll do the giveaway. Angel, thank you. Auto EQ on GitHub, Harman on mainstream or popular headphones through EQ. What do you think? Depends on the headphones. That's going to be my assessment there. So, yeah. I will say this about Harman. Well, first, actually, let me back up. It was nice to see that Jaakko Passanen from the Auto EQ guy started to include he redid stuff like a while ago to include the 9K dip that's supposed to be there. So that's good. And in that sense, I think he's paying attention to the right things. So I would say that's probably worth looking into if you want to get it to Harman. The one thing I will say, though, about Harman, and this is something that I hope to talk to Sean Olive about if we ever do a live stream, which I'm also optimistic for. I still need to send him a bottle of wine because I said I would. But with Harman, if you have a sense of what Harman sounds like based on an EQ profile for headphones that you own that takes it to Harman, that might not be exactly the same as if you're listening to a headphone that actually does achieve Harman, right? And this is something that I was talking to manufacturers about as well, and they seem to agree. But so that's why my answer to that is it depends on the headphones. I think, like, for example, if you're using one of the full-sized Odyssey LCDs, not the 2C, but like the 2F and the X and whatever, then I think that's a great idea. But there are other headphones where I would probably not recommend doing that. I'd probably say just go with your own, like, be as conservative as possible with your filters, because what can happen, I've noticed this, is like sometimes those profiles can sound a bit compressed. Now, with that said, there are definitely headphones where it's like, it'll sound so much better that with that profile than whatever the default frequency response is. Like, I'm thinking, I don't know if they did one for the Cascade, but like that's a good example there. Or like that the original Aeon 2 Open, right? If you had the EQ profile there, it would sound better. But or the 2020 LCD. Somebody says like the LCD 2, but like the 2020 LCD X, right? Definitely that would sound better with that Harman profile. And then there's also other headphones where getting it to that doesn't really take very much. So, to answer that question, depends on the headphones, but I also generally advocate for using as few filters as possible, and just being very conservative with your EQ. Because the other thing to keep in mind is that the ones that are very surgical, they might be accurate for the frequency response that was used in the measurement to achieve that. But you don't know if that's accurate for the headphones that you have, because there's always unit variation, there's pad variation, there's clamp pressure that changes the frequency response. So depending on the coupling on the side, that's on the side of the head, you may have different peaks and dips from what you see in the graph, right? And that's what the EQ's EQ profiles are based on. So it might not be exactly perfect for the headphones as they are on your head. And that's the main reason that I worry a little bit about like just throwing a profile on. But with that said, you know, there are definitely times when it's better to do that than just leave it with a default frequency response. All right, guys, no more super chats, because otherwise I'll be compelled to. I'll just stay here all day. Oh gosh, we get more. Okay, I'll answer these two, but then, you know, just yeah. No more super chats. We'll do the giveaway. How do you compare the Zen DAC V2 to the JDS Element 2? So both of those are good enough options. If you have the JDS Element 2, stick with that. If you have the Zen DAC V2, the JDS Element, someone could correct me if I'm wrong, does that have more power than the Zen DAC? I'm not sure. But the big thing about the Zen DAC is that it has the bass boost function. That is the reason. I mean, yes, the burr browns are a thing, but like the bass boost function is the reason to get the Zen DAC over something else. And its form factors, it's a small, cute little thing, right? So that's nice. But yeah, I don't think there's like, if you own one of those, don't jump to the other one. When I EQ a Bright headphone HD800 to Harman, it's still sibilance, but when I EQ an Odyssey to Harman, there is no treble fatigue at all. So this is what I'm talking about, right? Those profiles, they're based on a frequency response of a particular headphone in a particular coupling situation that may not be exactly what it is on your head. It's close generally. It's the total balance for those anthropometric ears. They're generally pretty close to an average ear, right? But it's not your ear, and so you know you might be incurring some additional. They may be shifted just a little bit or incurring something else there. So that's why I say, you know, if you really want to take this stuff seriously, get into doing it yourself. Learn how to read this stuff and then test, right? And see, does this actually work for me or not? And then, yeah, you just start doing manual profiles with parametric, or sorry, with parametrics, how you test, but use piece UI for equalizer APO. Okay, guys, let's do the yes, let's do the giveaway for the HD560S. And remember, we're doing 4 giveaways here. And each winner will also get the Zen DAC V2, right? So you get a 560S and a Zen DAC V2. Also keep in mind that not every... So we have this open to international, but like there are some places where regional restrictions just apply and we can't... you're not allowed to win giveaways for some reason, because that... Yeah. Which sucks. But if that's the case, we will just choose another winner. So we'll just move on. But fingers crossed we don't need to do that. All right, guys, let's have a drum roll. I need a drum roll in the chat, and we will then choose the first name. Drum roll. I'm not going to do it until I see a drum roll. Let's go, guys. I see eyes from Gustavo. Come on, guys. There we go. I see it. Thank you. I always need the drum roll emoji. All right. And the first winner of the Sennheiser HD560S and iFi Zen DAC is Jason K. Congratulations, Jason K. The second winner is I don't know how to say his name. Nguyen, I think. We have the email address. The third winner is, and I'm sorry if I butcher your name, 1N. And the fourth winner is Tyler F. And no, that's not Tyler who comes on the show all the time. I actually asked him if he wanted to join this one, but so yeah, we have the 4 winners. That's all been decided now. Congratulations if you won. But as usual, we will be doing. I see more drum rolls. As usual, we will be doing more giveaways on this channel. We try and do one every month. We may do like one every, we might do 2 months for one, depending on what it is. But yeah, we're going to try and do another one. That'll be posted as ideally as early as possible in the month. So usually within the first week or two of the month there, maybe a week and a half. So if you're wondering what the next giveaway is going to be, no, it wasn't. I see you, Ace. It wasn't Tyler Eclectic who won, because I can see the last name and it's not him. But yeah, if you're curious about what the next giveaway is going to be, just stay tuned to headphones.com/pages/giveaways. That's where that stuff will get posted. And yeah, we'll do that in advance. Alrighty, guys, that does it for this live stream. Thanks to everybody for hanging out. Thanks for participating in the giveaway. And yeah, just stay tuned to the giveaways page, and we will have the next one up soon. All right. Bye for now.